to fill you guys in on what happened yesterday with the SI. I don't really want to talk about this, but I figured I would let all of you guys know what's going on. But before I pull the plugs today, try to make this as quick as possible. I don't even know why I'm in the car right now because it is super gorgeous out, maybe because of the wind. But anyways, yeah, yesterday, guys, everything has been decent with the car, aside from, you know, not having a legit tune and aside from the person who hit my car. But everything's fixed, guys. I'm over that. You know, I stayed positive with it and I fixed it myself. It was kind of easy. You know, the bracket was messed up, but you know, I was able to push out the dent, as you guys saw in the other video, so I'm pretty happy for that. Yesterday, I had a scare with midnight, and I honestly was kind of like, I was pretty nervous when it happened, because I'm like, great, you know, like, what now? Like, what did I do? I was just sitting there at idle, and pretty much, like, my car started acting up. I'm at the car wash, and I'm like sitting here, I had my girl in the car and stuff, and I'm like looking over and I'm like looking at both mirrors, and all of a sudden I started smelling this like a burning brake smell, like a kind of like an oil smell. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh, it's probably the dude's, you know, car or truck in the wash, you know, from the water hitting the brakes. And I'm like looking around out of my passenger side, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, dude, that smoke's coming from my car. Literally at idle, there was blue smoke just floating out of this thing, like puffing out, and the car seemed like it was running fine. I had no idea, you know, what was going on with it, and it's like the first time this has ever happened. So I was idling for like maybe 10 or 15 minutes waiting to get in the wash, and at idle, the car started just like pouring blue smoke out of the rear. So I'm like, great, what the hell am I gonna do now? So I ended up pulling over after I got out of the car wash. I checked the oil, I checked the coolant, which I had already done before earlier in the day. Everything was fine. I still added a little bit more oil. I drove it about 10 minutes to 15 minutes to my girl's house and let it idle in the driveway. Everything seemed to be fine for the most part, and there was no blue smoke at all. So I kind of looked up some like symptoms real quick, and blue smoke, to my knowledge, indicates that either, you know, you have bad valves, you know, bad valve guides, you know, it could be piston rings, it could have been a head gasket. So some of you, like, you know, said that this thing might be running a little bit rich. I had contacted a few of you guys. We've been talking and stuff. So what I'm going to do today, for starters, this is going to be, you know, relatively easy, but just to get an idea of how this thing is running, and it's been running relatively nice for the most part. Like, for example, I drove this thing today for like 2 hours and it was fine. There was no smoke coming out of the rear, and I did a few pulls. It seemed to be, you know, running pretty good, no power loss or anything. Pulled the oil. I even checked the cap right here. I'll show you guys, and as you can see, I mean, it's kind of hard to see that, but there's like no milky, you know, substance around the cap. So I checked that. Oil is good, coolant is good in the reservoir, and the cap I pulled off, and everything's pretty much up to the neck. What I'm gonna do is check my spark plugs and pretty much come to conclusion to see how everything's running. So yeah, let's get into pulling the plugs. You guys already know the deal. I did this before for you, but we're gonna go ahead and start wrenching here. I gotta pull the cowl off first and take the cover off for the coils. Extension, spark plug socket. So this cowl should just pop right up. come up. There we go. Now we have the notorious rain guard here that we got to take off, and as you guys know, you got two 12 mils in the back, and then there's a few 10 millimeters that are holding it on from the front, and then on the rear on the brackets. Wait for it. Oh, there's a skunk too. Alpha header holding up. Crazy, like the amount of room you get once you take that guard off right there. All right, got the cover off right here, as you can see. That gives us access to the coil packs. Really dying to see how these spark plugs are gonna look, because I'm a little scared right now. This is the coil pack I got when I was in Florida. It's like still new condition technically, so it's holding up pretty good. That's what you get for parts that are. I know it doesn't matter which order the coil packs go in, because it's not like they're any different from one another, but I like to just keep mine in order anyways, so I'm gonna just make sure I put them all back in the same cylinders. Pulling out this one, just checking for oil and stuff like that. And we got this last one right here. Got my handy dandy light right here. I'm just gonna look in each one of the cylinders pretty much and check and see if there's any oil that is covering the spark plugs.
Dang, look at that ass.
Yo, I think there is. Dude, there might be oil in one of the cylinders. So guys, I just checked all of the cylinders, and cylinder number 4 and number 3 might have a little bit of oil that is kind of over the top of the spark plug. I'm not 100% sure, but I looked down there and was able to see something that might have looked like oil. So I'm gonna pull the plugs, check the ends of the plugs, and hopefully that was the issue with the blue smoke. For the true test, guys. Kind of nervous right now, I'm not gonna lie. Cylinder number 4, that's the spark plug that came out of that, and as you can see, it doesn't even look like it's been running lean. There's no really white, or it's not crazy black right there. Cylinder number 2, spark plug right there, as you guys can see, and all 3 so far have been somewhat in decent shape. So I just finished up pulling off all the plugs. As you can see, I got to go ahead and pop the coil packs back in, and most likely, like, the condition of the spark plugs is actually, like, they were all pretty good for the most part. So if anything, I might be running a little bit rich, but I feel like most of them were optimal. So hopefully it's good, guys. I don't know on the smoke issue. I might try to run like a thicker weight oil, or maybe swap to Castrol Edge, because Castrol is going to be a little bit thicker than Mobil 1, I believe. So as far as that goes, I think I'm just going to try switching oil, and hopefully I don't need to do a rebuild yet, but we'll see, guys. I might need to do, you know, either valves or piston rings. So hopefully it's nothing too crazy. I mean, if it is, I guess more wrenching for me. So I'm gonna try to let it run at idle for a little bit and see if it like smokes for you guys, because I want to have you guys see it personally, but we'll see what happens. Let's take you around back, see if this thing's smoking at all.